Hi, my name's Robin Carey.
My name's Peter Ashfield.
And today we're continuing with our short film sequences around marketing. Today we're going to be talking about brand.
Brand. That's an interesting one, Robin.
I've noticed, Peter, you've got two pens there.
I certainly have. Both of them right.
Both of them right. You must be a very rich man. This is a Mont Blanc.
Yeah.
And this
is a very cheap pen.
Now, I don't quite understand this, Peter, because this pen writes.
Yeah.
This pen writes.
It does indeed.
They both do the same job.
Yeah.
But this one is really, really expensive. And this one is really, really cheap.
Yeah. It's called brand.
It's called brand. So, even though this does the same job as this, because this is a Mont Blanc and it's really expensive, that means you're really rich and successful.
Well, this is where branding really does take on a meaning of its own. If you start to look at brand, its design, the symbols, the weight of the pen, and all of the features that basically distinguish it from its competitors, people who buy these pens, I believe, are people who feel as though they're worth it, that they've earned it, they deserve this kind of quality pen. I can't help but notice, Robin, that you're wearing a watch that looks very much like a high-end Rolex.
I am wearing a Rolex.
So again, I'm not wearing a watch because I use my mobile phone to tell the time.
So, let's put this into perspective. I've spent a large amount of money on a Rolex because of the brand. It has no apps, it doesn't make phone calls,
Nope.
I can't use WeChat,
Nope.
yet it costs many more times than the most expensive mobile phone.
My perception of this is, Robin, that you're a hard-working man, you've worked in industry, and you have some of the spoils that go along with that particular history. And that's how companies like Rolex and companies like Mont Blanc define their markets with those particular people, because they, like we picked up in the previous videos, they segment their market to understand that people of particular net worth, people with particular careers, people with particular aspirations will buy high-end products because they can.
So sometimes we buy things not because of their function, the pen, the watch, it's because of what that brand means. And that's called branding, and it can be the name, a symbol,
The logo,
or a feature.
It can be a deep visceral connection with the product. In other words, there's a nostalgic thing to it, i.e. my granddad had a Rolex and therefore I'm continuing the family trend of having a Rolex from this point onward. It's on many deep levels, I would imagine.
My grandfather had a Bic, so I'm keeping that family tradition going.
Indeed.
Now, branding, strangely enough, started off in America many years ago. And what it actually was people used to brand cattle to know that this cattle, this animal belongs to me. It was a branding iron, and it branded one farmer's cattle from another farmer's cattle.
And of course that's a fundamental part of branding, differentiation. Who does it belong to? Who does it kind of relate to? And I think differentiation is something which is an important part of all of this. And if you think about marketing on the deepest level, it's about one part is about differentiating your products from your competitors. So clearly there is a differentiation between that and that. And if I was wearing a cheap watch, you could clearly see the differentiation between the Rolex and the cheap watch. And you can differentiate on so many levels.
So what marketers do is they have products aimed at different market segments, people who may have different incomes and different aspirations. So you may think, well, a person who drives a Bentley will have shoes made by a certain person, a wardrobe made by a certain designer, so they will fly first class in a plane, they will have an expensive lifestyle. So this then gives people things to aspire to not only reward themselves, but to show other people that they're successful. I guess something that leads from that is brand equity.
Indeed.
And I guess that's about the value of a symbol. So the moment that you see Mont Blanc or Rolex, we know that that product has got a value, which is a high value because of the brand equity within that particular organisation.
Indeed, and brand equity itself, if we think about this leading on to things like corporate takeovers, organisations buying other organisations to bring into their product portfolio, there's a tremendous value associated with brand equity from a financial perspective in terms of the value of the business.
So quite often businesses are valued not according to their buildings, but according to the value of the brand, which in itself may be no more than a logo.
Exactly. And that's branding.
That ends another one of our short films. My name's Robin.
My name's Peter.